Well, waiting definitely paid off. Let's talk about it. So do you remember how some people were talking about graphics cards, they're never gonna fall in price, they're only gonna get more and more expensive, mining's never going away, it's gonna be doom and gloom forever? Well, as it turns out, that's not necessarily the case, as it looks like graphics card prices have been continuing to drop for some time now, and I got even more great news for you guys today, because yes, they are continuing to drop, and I think we've hit a definite big milestone here, guys, in terms of the pricing of GPUs. It's definitely looking way better, and it looks like, well, for all of you who are watching right now who stayed strong and decided not to buy graphics cards at 3 times their price, 2 times their price, or even 1.5 times their price, looks like your reward is coming, and congratulations, it's basically already here. GPU prices are at an all-time low right now, and they are continuing to fall day by day. So yeah, it really did pay off to go ahead and wait, and it looks like, honestly, guys, if you continue to wait just a little bit longer, things could get even better. But honestly, like I mentioned, things are starting to look good right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these graphics cards right now to see, how much movement there's been in the GPU space in terms of pricing, and when I think it's going to be a good time to buy a GPU. I mean, is it a good time to buy one now? Is it a good time to buy one in a couple weeks? Or should you not buy one at all and wait for the RTX 40 series? Well, we'll talk about that in just a minute, but first let's go ahead and take a look and see how much pricing has reduced. So first, taking a look at the RTX 3080 Ti, because right now over on Newegg, you can actually buy a gigabyte model. I know I wouldn't necessarily buy a gigabyte, but you can buy one for $1,300, and I have seen other models go for even cheaper, which honestly, even at $1,300, that's actually only 8% over its MSRP. Now, yes, $1,300 is definitely a lot of money, but that's probably the closest I have ever seen any GPU get to its MSRP. So if you were someone who was gonna buy an RTX 3080 Ti, I guess, yeah, it's getting really close, and it's definitely getting to that point where you're like, should I buy one or should I not? But we'll talk about that in just a minute, because again, yeah, that price is still really high despite it approaching its MSRP. But now let's go ahead and talk about the RTX 3080 vanilla model, because this one's actually looking pretty interesting as well. So here I think we've hit a major milestone as well, because honestly, for a very long time, the 3080's been going for like $1,500 to $1,300 US, and just in recent history, we did hit closer to $1,000. But just this week, for the first time ever, yes, they dropped below $1,000, which is definitely good news. Still too high in my opinion, but still very good movement here. Here, actually, you can buy an RTX 3080 MSI Gaming Z Trio for $970 right now, shipped and sold by Newegg over on their website, which, yeah, that's a huge improvement. Honestly, still too high, but a huge improvement. Now, moving on to the RX 6800 XT, if you're an AMD fan or you're someone who prefers AMD, well, the Gaming Z Trio here, once again, $950. So a little bit cheaper than the RTX 3080, but honestly, I do believe the AMD needs to be undercutting Nvidia a little bit more for it to be more worth it. I know it gets more RAM, but at the same time, Nvidia has some features that AMD doesn't do quite as well. Now, moving on to the RTX 3080 12GB, this one honestly is one of the better ones as well. It's definitely getting to a far more reasonable price a lot quicker. Now, this one, again, you can buy a Gaming Z Trio 12GB for $1,120. Now, I have seen a gigabyte one for as low as $999, but that was only for a short amount of time. This one, in my opinion, I do believe is still a little bit too high in its price, but considering that it is very close to an RTX 3080 Ti in terms of its performance, and it's actually under the MSRP of an RTX 3080 Ti, it's starting to look not that bad. But would I actually recommend that you buy these high-end GPUs like an RTX 3080, 3080 12GB, or 6800 XT? And honestly, I'm gonna have to say no. I mean, even if we take a look at the RTX 3080 Ti, with it only being 8% over its MSRP, even though that sounds really good, we do have to keep in mind $1,300 is a lot of money, and when we consider that the RTX 40 series is going to be launching in about 6 months and will be replacing these graphics cards, it's going to make them look absolutely ridiculous and obsolete. So I think if you are going to be buying a GPU like a 6800 XT, 3080, or even 3080 Ti, these GPUs need to be at a very good price point, because if they're going to be replaced within 6 months, even if the RTX 40 series isn't going to be at the same price as the 30 series, it's still going to make them look pretty silly if you bought a 3080 for over its MSRP. So I do think that for an RTX 3080, for example, I'd like to see it maybe an AIB model like $800 at most, a 3080 12GB $850 to $900 at most, and a 3080 Ti I think actually might not even be worth buying at its MSRP. Now, in some cases, maybe it is, but for me personally, I probably wouldn't even buy a 3080 Ti at this point. I'd probably try and snag a 3080 12GB, again, for $850 or $900, because spending over $1,000 for such a small performance improvement doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But what actually does make sense is buying an entry-level to mid-tier graphics card, even slightly above its MSRP, it's probably not going to be too bad of an idea, because we do have to keep in mind that the 40 series is going to probably launch with the 70, the 4080, as well as a 4090 or 4090 Ti, but it's not going to launch with stuff like a 4060 Ti, 4060, or 4050. Those GPUs are going to come much, much later, which means if you're someone who's buying a 3060 right now or 3060 Ti, those graphics cards probably won't be replaced for upwards of a year plus. So you are going to get a lot of life out of these GPUs if you buy them now. But is it worth buying them right now? Well, honestly, that's a good question. Let's go ahead and take a look. And once again, looking at Newegg, we can see here an MSI Ventus RTX 3060 Ti can be had for $570, which is the best price I've seen thus far. Maybe some other eagle-eyed viewers have seen better deals, but that's definitely the best I've seen. Now, you can also get an MSI Mech 6700 XT for $575, and I think these two cards are very, very competitive. So to see them at the same price, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. However, is it worth buying? Honestly, I think it's really, really close. Like, we are getting super close to me saying yes, buy these graphics cards, but we're just not quite there. I think if you hold out just a few more weeks, possibly as long as a month, I don't think it's going to be longer than a month, I actually will be able to recommend some entry to mid-level graphics cards. Now, the entry level maybe not, but the 3060 Ti and 6700 XT, I do believe these graphics cards will hit a actually very good price point in probably the next couple of weeks here. I mean, just last week, these graphics cards were $600 plus. Now they're under $600. I don't think it'll be too much longer until we see them around $500 or less. So for me personally, I think buying a custom RTX 3060 Ti for about $480, yes, it's over its MSRP, but I think that's acceptable to me. I think if you're getting a good AIB model, it's actually not too bad, and at that point, I probably would go ahead and drop links in the description so you could go ahead and buy them. As you've noticed, I have not been doing that because personally, even though I could tell you guys to go out and just buy a bunch of graphics cards and try and make all kinds of affiliate money, you know what? As a great man once said, it's not always about the money, Spider-Man. Honestly, I'd rather see the GPU market more healthy than me making money off of affiliate links, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys, probably don't buy it. And the same goes for the RX 6700 XT. It's very, very close, but honestly, I think the absolute most I'd pay for this graphics card is probably around $500, even for a good AIB model, because yes, even though the MSRP for this thing was $480, I think that was a little bit too much for that card, and I think it's more of a 3060 Ti competitor. So yes, you do get extra VRAM, but it has some features that aren't quite as good as Nvidia, so I think it's kind of a wash, and therefore it should be probably around the price of a 3060 Ti, so which for me is a maximum of $500. Probably $480 is more reasonable. But hey, that's just what I think. When do you think is a good time to buy a graphics card? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed to keep up to date with GPU news and when it's a good time to buy one. And of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to drop a like. Every time you do so, AMD and Nvidia get more stock. Also, if you want to see more, click here. You won't be disappointed.